What's up, homies? Welcome to another Heroes Reforged comic book review. The Invincible universe is going strong, and today we're talking about Invincible, Volume 11, Happy Days. Volume 11, Happy Days. There it is. It's a reread for me. It's a reread for Augustine. You should know the drill by now. We've been reading all of Invincible and all of the tie-in Invincible universe extra bonus stuff. Adam, this is the first time you've read it. Hit us with your overall thoughts, brother. Volume 11, Happy Days. What'd you think?
I loved it. I think Volume 10, right off the bat, Volume 10 is still like one of the strongest ones that we've read. But this one's cool because we start to get back into storylines that we've been away from for a little bit. We have to learn some things about the Vultrumites. We learn a little bit. You know, we're always getting like little context clues about Alan and Nolan's relationship and their friendship and all that sort of stuff. So I love seeing all that. We get the return of a very rad-ass character.
Ooh, which character?
Battle
which one? Oh, yeah.
Come on.
That was awesome. That was so awesome.
Yeah, and you know, we're continuing to see sort of the tension between Cecil and Mark, which is always really interesting, and also the relationship that he has with his brother, and a little spicy relationship with Eve. Hachi mama. So yeah, overall, I really loved it. And I really even loved seeing the Astounding Wolfman in the second to last issue of that volume, and then we get, you know, the Astounding Wolfman kind of comic tie-in, which is really cool. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I think the last issue in this volume was it doesn't necessarily in this moment kind of tie directly into the story, but Augustine and I were talking about it, and it feels like it's definitely starting to sort of like set up sort of the I don't know, the view that the world has on Mark Grayson and Invincible and his family of heroes, and the repercussions that might have in the future. So there's also some shenanigans that was fun.
Yeah. I'll take this, yoink, and he goes back and gets his own clothes.
Crazy
Let's talk
time
about
shenanigans.
That last chapter, chapter 7, or issue 59 of the series, because it is a reread for me, and Augustine and I will have thoughts about this character, but Powerplex. Powerplex is a very interesting character. Kind of a classic supervillain in a sense, because the whole issue basically is devoted to him. It feels like you're saying, Adam, it feels a little bit disconnected from sort of everything else that's happening. And if you read the sketch material stuff in the back, what's going on, Augustine? You got a fly? What is it? What's happening?
Just fixing my light. I'm a little too dark here. So there you go.
You look great.
Yeah.
So in the back of the book, the paperback, Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley are talking about Powerplex, and they're like, Kirkman was like, at first I wanted the cover to make it look like maybe it was like an evil version of Invincible, because we've been teasing that. I don't know why I was thinking that, like he kind of doesn't look like that. And then Ryan Ottley was saying, yeah, I think people maybe expected him to be related to Invincible in some way, you know, like related directly to Mark and his life. And instead they went the opposite direction, where they're like, this is just a rando guy, but he was affected by something that Invincible and Omni-Man did, like the actions of this of the superhero persona. And then in just the one issue,
tied no matter what.
And in this one issue, you get Powerplex, so I think his real name is Scott. Like, you'll learn that his sister was killed, and you just flash back to the faceless thousands that were killed during this battle. And then, now that we've seen the animated show, how violent and messed up that kind of battle was. So now I'm like, God, it's so sad. And then we meet his wife, who's also trying to get revenge for her sister-in-law, basically, who passed away.
She's just being a good wife. She's being supportive. You know, she's being there for her husband. Yeah.
He's got a little baby son. He's got anger issues, but like he loves his kid. And then by the end of the issue, he accidentally kills his wife and son. I still remember the Powerplex origin story. As soon as this issue started, I started rereading it. I went, oh boy, here we go. This is Powerplex. I know what's going to happen. Adam, what did you think when you got to that page? You turned the page and you saw that in an instant, his wife and kid were dead. What did you think of that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really plays. I think what it does primarily for me, it really helps to kind of like ground the world a little bit and to kind of contextualize how the world is viewing everything that's been happening. So
Mhm.
far, the story has more or less been strictly from the perspective of Mark, and we're like going through the paces with him. We're understanding how he's reacting to everything, how his friends directly associated with him are reacting. But to now see an actual casualty from the fallout of this battle and that having sort of a cascading effect and affecting another person directly and their family, it really starts to like you start to ask these questions about like morality and what's right and what's wrong, and is this quest that Mark is on the right one? Is he going about it the right way? Is all of this basically this war that's happening between, you know, everybody within the story on Earth but also intergalactically, is it all going to is it all worth it? And I think like
Mhm.
the book seems to kind of be shifting slowly into that direction, because when we go back to Nolan and Allen, they sort of have these conversations from time to time of like the theme feels like it's, are we doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Do I want to betray my people? Am I more human than I am Vulturemite? These like themes that like all these characters are tackling with, particularly obviously Mark and Omni Man. So I think it's interesting that now we're kind of pulling the camera back a bit, and we're
Mhm.
asking the
Mhm.
question of like, well, how does the world feel about it? Because he even makes comments. I forget what character exactly. It might have been actually a Powerplex who says like the world fears you, and we've never really
Yeah.
seen that. We don't really get to see
Right.
that. You know,
Right.
there's a reaction from people when he time travels and he all of a sudden appears back in the restaurant with Eve.
Yes.
But we
Hmm.
don't really know if that's just a reaction to the fact that he like zaps in and out of time, or
Mhm.
do the people realize that he's invincible or not? But I hope we get to kind of see a little bit more of that. I would like to see a little bit more of the
Mhm.
perspective of the world and how they view him, because I think right now the story's inside of a bubble. But
Mhm.
it's a good bubble. But I would like just a little bit pull back a little bit
Yeah.
and let us see what the world is saying about Invincible. And
Mhm.
I imagine that this book will do it in some way, one way or another.
Yeah. It was very shocking for me the first time I read it when Powerplex's family was killed. Now he's been established as this villain who has such a sympathetic backstory that like if and when we
Yeah.
see Powerplex again, it's almost like Mr. Freeze from Batman the animated series. You're like,
Hmm.
oh my god, this guy's like wife, like this is why he is the way he is, and it's I
Hmm.
think Powerplex is a great villain for that. I want to kick it over to Augustine because I want to ask my dude about something. This is the first time I've read this since we've read any Wolfman, and we got a true blue Wolfman crossover in this. Augustine,
Yeah.
how did you feel about the Wolfman story crossover? We jumped into an issue of Wolfman.
Yeah.
He was in the woods with this guy, like, and anytime that character was describing what he went through, we've already read it. Like I was seeing it this time. So, Augustine,
Hmm.
what was it
Yeah.
like revisiting this, but with the Wolfman knowledge?
Well, first of all, did you guys notice the art style change?
Well,
So
yeah,
the
because
art
what?
style
Because
changes because it's the original artist, right? Isn't it the original artist
it's
for the Wolfman series?
It's because this volume has issues 54 through 59 of Invincible, but it
Right.
also has issue 11 of the Astounding Wolfman.
Right,
Like they just
exactly.
stuck
So
it in there.
I thought that was great. Now, what this is doing, what this chunk of the story really made me realize is how much I ended up really liking Wolfman, to the point where I want to
Hmm.
go and buy the trade paperbacks because I read it digitally. But now I'm just like,
Mhm.
I kind of have to put those into place because they this is actually a big chunk of the story. And the first time, so this part of the comic on my first read through completely blocked out of my head. I don't remember any of this stuff because, and Adam and I were talking about this, to me, it felt like filler. But the more that you guys talk about it, the more the ideas that were presented here, like, yeah, it actually is it is a pretty good read. And I think I felt like it at the beginning when I was reading this, that it was more like filler because volume 10 was so damn good.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
I was coming off of the high of volume 10 where I'm like, oh yeah, this is
Mhm.
like the more like earth-based like kind of stuff that's happening. Plus it's a lot of setup. I think the one frame that encapsulates this whole volume is the one frame of the Sequids taking over the dude in his apartment where he says soon, right? Like everything is
Soon.
happening soon, like soon, soon, soon. Like Angstrom's gonna attack soon.
Yep.
Um, We have Powerplex is gonna come back soon. We have what else do we have? Something's gonna
I
happen
mean,
with Eve
we
and Mark soon.
we
Just
we
we
got
have
we got the future tease of like Immortal ruling the world, but like
That
Mark
right.
was
left him in charge.
insane.
That
Like
was crazy.
so that's gonna have to come to a head or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's just to me it just felt like a lot of buildup, but at the same time, all of like we know Kirkman, he is
Hmm.
gonna pay off a lot of this stuff as we go along. So I think that's why I kind of felt like this read kind of dragged a little bit for me. But
Hmm.
as I'm looking at it digitally right now, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, like a lot of this stuff happened. The scene where Omni Man and Alan crack open that dude's head, like, come on, man.
You're a
Alan
lot more
is
powerful
a
than I thought.
yeah. He's like, how strong are you? And
Yeah.
Alan's like,
Very.
very.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's way cool. Like, I think that now that they're buddies, I want to follow them through space at this point. Like, this
Yes.
is
Yeah.
I want to keep seeing that relationship blossom, because
It-
I think it's cool.
yeah, and it's
But I think
impossible to like not read those pages without having J.K. Simmons and
Oh,
Seth Rogen in your head.
a thousand
yeah.
percent, a thousand
So
percent. Yeah,
good. So
I
good.
agree.
I also think, Augustine, you're right about like the Wolfman stuff maybe did feel like a bit of a distraction the first time we read it. I mean,
Right.
we were even 10 years younger first time we read it. But
Yeah.
now
Right.
reading it and how you were talking about the themes of this volume, like it's
Hmm.
so fitting that we go spend a little time with Nolan, who has serious anger issues. Then we
Hmm.
spend time with Mark, and he's also like, I can't hold back. Like,
Right.
I want to talk about this too in a second, but he's like, I wanted to kill that guy who hurt
Hmm.
Amber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to talk about that storyline, but then just going back to Wolfman real quick, when Wolfman shows up and he's like, I lose control once a month. Mark was like,
Hmm.
I can kind of relate to this guy. Like he's not a
Hmm.
Hmm.
murderer, he's a good dude. And I
Right.
realized in the Wolfman crossover, I went, oh, that's so brilliant to take whatever's happening with the Wolfman comic and bring it into Mark's world, but like have it thematically resonant to what Mark is going through at the time. You
Yeah.
know, it was like the perfect timing for him to meet this character and befriend this character. And they both kind of left of on the terms of like, look, I may have my shit that I have to deal with, and I may lose my anger, like my temper, and like hurt
Mm.
people and stuff, but I don't mean to, and I'm a good person. And I think
Hmm.
Mark left knowing like, yeah, me too, dude, me too. So let's talk about Amber. Let's talk about that storyline. One issue where again, I remember this. Augustine, you've read it before. I
Hmm.
had a lot of thoughts rereading this, namely like how and if this is even going to be adapted into the animated series, because I feel like with a lot of stuff in Invincible, I'm so glad that Robert Kirkman wrote it into the story, but I can
Hmm.
see that it may lack some nuance that could benefit the story if it were rewritten or revisited today. And I don't,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, especially now that like Amber is a black woman, there's even like it's just like how do you deal with this thing? But this story deals with domestic abuse,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I am glad that it brought it up. And it may have been handled in maybe kind of an immature way where Mark's just like, I'm gonna go threaten to kill him. But at the same
Hmm.
time, it's like that's kind of relatable. And I was really shocked the first time I read it. Again, getting to that panel and Amber turns her face. Adam, what did you make of it? What'd you think?
Wasn't expecting it at all, because we've been pretty disconnected from Amber up to this point in the story, and I honestly couldn't tell you when was the last time we saw her in what volume.
Yeah.
So when that
Yeah.
Yeah.
call came through, I was like, oh, who could this be? Is it Cecil? Is he like really gonna go and try to
Hmm.
work for Cecil again? And then it was Amber, and I was like, this is really interesting. And then she turned around, and I was like, oh my god, wow! I
Yeah. It
wasn't
was pretty
expecting that
brutal.
moment to happen. And yeah, I think that's the one thing about the animated series that's interesting or exciting too is because they're very much viewing this story through a more modern lens. They can look at something like that and really expand upon it and really have something to say about that if they want to go down that path.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
I don't feel like this animated series is holding anything back. Like if anything,
Yeah.
it's leaning into a lot of things. So whenever that happens, we don't know exactly what parts of the comic book will kind of be set around season 2.
Mhm.
So we'll see. But Yeah, but I think, Mark's reaction, it's pretty valid. I think sometimes we think it's a
Mhm.
bit too big because he's a superhero and he's super powered and he has a little bit of a temper tantrum, and or not temper, but he's starting to develop more and more, anger issues. But I think
Mhm.
it's a pretty natural reaction when you care about somebody to react that way. And I think the conversation that follows with Eve, when he tells her they went to go see Amber and he explains the situation, she tells him, she's like, maybe you're being a little too tough on yourself. Like, she's basically telling him
Bro, I
it's
would
a
have done the
super tough
same
situation, and
thing.
like, and she says like, I love Amber, and I don't want to see
Yeah.
anything happen to her either. So I think the reaction is super valid. I always think that when you have the responsibility of being super powered, it's that
Mhm.
added responsibility of like, how do you use that, and how do you
Mhm.
where's the boundary line, and when do you cross it? So, but
Mhm.
it was a
It's
unexpected moment, but I think it's always interesting, and I think it's good sometimes when these topics are kind of brought to the
yeah.
forefront, because it's easy to get lost in a comic book like this
Hmm.
when it's
Yeah.
just superheroes and big, intergalactic
Yeah.
space battles. But again, when it grounds it again, you realize like these are characters, these are people, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's cool to kind of explore all that.
It was really powerful, and I think that it is a storyline that I hope the show doesn't avoid. I hope that the show actually finds a way to do it, and
Yeah,
that there's a great conversation to be had there about, can someone like Amber, as strong as a person as she is in the animated show, like, can even she get involved in an abusive relationship? And when you get a kind of caught in a cycle of abuse, like, there's just a
how do you
lot
break
to
out of
to
it?
unpack there. Yeah, how do you? Yeah, like, how would you do that? And I think it's yeah, I think it was a really powerful moment, and I'm glad it was in the comic book. Now I want to talk about, I think, the last major thing in this, which is the title is called Happy Days, and it's Mark and Eve going on this whirlwind beautiful date and then
Hmm.
hooking up for the first time, making
Hmm.
love like
Hmm.
lovers do. Augustine,
Hmm. Admitting that they love each other. It's
admitting
great.
that they love it. Like, dude, there was some parts I was like, God, these two are so great. Like, you get emotional and stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I really did. I really did. I love these two characters. But Augustine, what was
Yeah.
it like getting to this point in the relationship on this reread?
So given that I knew that they were headed in this direction, it was nice to it's almost like we're all in relationships. It's almost like looking back at like pictures of you first dating your significant other. It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I remember that. Oh, that's cute." Like, "Oh, like I love that
Yeah.
these two are in a relationship. I think they're absolutely perfect for each other. I every time something positive happened with them, I cheered, and when the
Yeah.
time travelers came back to ruin their date, I'm like, "Fuck, man, let Mark have this. He's trying
Yeah.
hard, damn it. We need
Yeah.
this relationship to work because it's important to everybody, including my
Yeah.
own mental health." So
It's
so
a good thing
like
they stuck him right back where he came from.
yeah, exactly. I'm
Yeah.
glad they went back and did that whole time traveling thing where like he
Yeah.
wasted literally 0 seconds killing,
Great payoff.
the immortal.
Great.
Yeah, great
Yeah, that
payoff.
was epic, but great payoff to where the last time we see Eve, you just see off
Right.
panel, "Good evening, madam," and you're like, "Oh my
Yeah,
god, what is this,
yeah.
Angstrom Levy?
Like
Like, what
yeah,
I actually
who
thought it was
is it?"
Mark from another dimension.
yeah.
There you
I
go, but it was
totally
our
thought it
Mark.
was gonna be Angstrom and he was gonna wreck
Yeah,
some shit. No, but
absolutely.
I really absolutely love that this is happening. I love the art style specifically because it's like very glowy and pink and like soft and Otley's I'm just never not gonna point out Otley's art. Like he
Yeah,
really hit everything on the head here by making it feel like a very romantic, yeah, like a very romantic scene. In my head,
it
I
feels
was
like. Sorry, go ahead.
no, in my head, the song "A Whole New World" was playing the entire time because that's what it felt like. I can show you the world, like that.
Uh,
That was just playing in my
Right.
head the entire time. So yeah,
I was gonna
Oh,
say it reminds me of Superman 78, of just like Lois and Superman and Lois flying through Metropolis, and I'm like,
can you
that's
read
what
my
that
thought?
yeah,
Can
yeah,
you read my
yeah.
mind?
that's like the feeling that I get when I see that
Mhm.
artwork of them just like going from the
Right,
Eiffel
right, right.
Tower to all these different locations. And I think
Yeah.
one of
Okay,
my
well,
favorite moments though was when when we see Debbie gardening and she's like
Oh
sleeping my
yeah.
ass,
Sleeping
and I'm
my
like, I
ass.
love it.
She
Again,
knows what's going
evidence,
on.
proof positive. Debbie's the best character in the comic book, best character in
Yeah.
the show.
Debbie knows
Debbie's
what's
the
up.
best.
She's not dumb.
Before we wrap out, we got to do some vibe checks on 2 characters. Vibe check, Oliver. How we feeling? Adam, vibe check.
You know, it was like a little bit of like a cliffhanger reaction from him in the last volume. So I thought, oh, maybe we're gonna like start diving into that. We did a little bit, and you know, he had some good back and forths with Mark, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to remain as optimistic as possible about that character because I think he has the potential to not necessarily be like Mark, but he has the
Mhm.
potential to maybe be better at certain things that Mark is struggling with, you know, anger
Mhm.
management, that sort of stuff. I think he can use what he sees in Mark as an opportunity to kind of better himself. At the same time, I feel like he also could be a very easily corruptible character. So I'm like waiting for where kind of the
Mm.
tide's gonna go. So I'm not quite sure yet.
Dude, this kid
What?
Oliver, his brain is in the right place, but this kid does not pass the vibe check, dude. Sorry. Like right now, this kid is
Okay.
not vibing. This kid is like
Okay.
he could flip, like Adam's saying, he could flip at any moment. So
Yeah.
vibe check.
Moment.
Sorry, kid. Get out of
Okay.
here with that shit.
Last one. We got to do a Rex check. Rexplode. Adam, is he more likable? Is he the same? Is he less likable? How you feeling about Rexplode?
I'm still like really, really into him, you know, and I'm trying to like channel Jason Mantzoukas as much as I can. And it's going to be so interesting to see that shift in the animated series. Like it's going to be,
Mhm.
I think it's going to be like a really welcome thing when it happens. But you know, I love sort of the role that he's taking on, and I'm sure you know that more of that will sort of expand. And he's still making mistakes. He still
Mhm.
has a little bit of that Rexplode that we met in
He's a
the very
kid.
beginning of the
Yeah.
book. But I think now his
Yep.
intentions are changing and his attitude is changing.
Yep.
And I think he
Right.
has the potential to maybe even become like a really solid leader of this team.
Yeah. I don't know if it's in the next volume or the one after, but I feel like a really awesome Rex moment is coming up. But
Mhm.
before we do that, we're going to announce the next book we're reading. Guys, we did the Astounding Wolfman crossover. We got to go back to Wolfman, baby. We're reading Astounding
All
Wolfman
right.
Volume 2 to get the
Yeah.
context to read the issues surrounding what we just read. Volume 2 even features issues 8 through 12 and Invincible issue number 57. So we will have those 2-parters in this as well. We don't have to reread it. We can skim it because we just read it. But let's go get the context of Astounding Wolfman Volume 2. What the hell happens to Gary Hampton? What's going on? That's what we're reading next. And then I believe we'll get back to Invincible, I think. But
One
for now,
thing,
Astounding Wolfman. Yeah, go.
the multi-marks.
Oh yeah. And
That
Angstrom.
whole
Multi-marks-
one-page panel.
Multi-marks of Madness. Yeah, Multi-marks of Madness.
Those are some cool designs. I like the designs.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it was obviously cool to see Angstrom, but
You should peep the art in the back. There's a second panel with more multiverse marks, and there's some really cool ones in there. Some really cool ones in there.
They cut
Yeah.
some because I think Kirkman said like some of these are too wacky, but
Yeah.
but this is
There was one where he
this is
has
the-
like samurai swords. Yeah, those are
See if
really
you
cool.
nice.
One of them has like flaxen armor from
Mhm.
like that invading alien force, and some of them have like the alternate bulletproof or invincible costume designs. One of them has
There's
like the
two Viltrumite where he's got a mustache in one.
Mustache.
And then he's got a young
classic.
Viltrumite one.
Yeah.
And then he's got a color scheme that's like Omni-Man's, where he's light blue
Yeah.
with a red eye and a red cape. That's insane. It's really cool.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I
Adam,
like
with
it.
your yeah, I hope that has a good payoff.
multi-marks. Yeah, Red Augustine. I hope that has a good payoff. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Multi-marks of
don't
madness.
I don't know.
We'll
I don't
see,
know where this is
whatever,
going,
man.
but yeah.
We'll see. But first, it's Astounding Wolfman Volume 2, and we'll be back next week. Guys, if you just jumped into this review, be sure to check out our uncut reactions to every episode of the Invincible animated series from Amazon. That's on our Patreon. Go back and watch everything else that we've reviewed, comic book-wise. Tell your friends about it. Get them hooked on the series. And when you do, message us. Tweet at us being like, I'm so happy that I'm reading this series. I heard about it from you guys. We get those messages all the time, and it's awesome. Nothing makes me happier than knowing that like people even tried this or the show just based on us being excited about it.
Right.
Because I feel like it's a secret club I've been a part of since 2003, and now there's way many more members, and it's great, man. It's great.
It's so tasty.
And if you're having trouble finding it, if you don't want to pay for Comixology, it's on Hoopla for free. Almost all the stuff that we've been reading. Check your
library
local
card.
area. You just need a library card, and I know in LA it's for free. Right now, I'm actually skimming through Astounding Wolfman Volume 2. So, yeah, follow along. You have zero excuses at this point.
Get on the train, baby. I left the station.
Oh, you got kids. Oh, you got a family. You got responsibilities. I don't want to hear it.
I don't care. I don't care. Read it.
I don't care. I don't care. You're a punk. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Read Astounding Wolfman Volume 2. See you then. Bye.